Robert Kiyosaki actually just messaged me as I was getting on here this morning. Everyone kind of knows these like invisible lines. The best advice I got years ago was know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. And it feels, really scary and risky in the beginning because obviously it's, something that's not comfortable, right? But he calls it other people's money, like the bank's money to then use other people's money. I am the person that if I go to Vegas and I have $25 chip, like once I've lost that, I'm like, okay, I'm out. And the other thing I do that probably isn't as conventional as other people is there's a ton of people who would line up to tell me all of the reasons why you should never buy an oceanfront home. So like, for instance, like my homes are almost booked for 2025 already because I call them like A+ locations. So I feel like I can make any location or any, building, just more attractive, whether it's, paint or, tearing down its walls, things like that. But you can't change the location, right? So I try to go in and try to get the best that I can or the best I can afford in A+ location. So for my first property was in Utah on a lake that I love. Am in Pineview. And I just really saw the value of that. People, wanted to, obviously rent those out and things like that. So that kind of was like the first takeoff on that. And then I really started focusing in Arizona, Scottsdale, Arcadia area, and, did several properties there. And that area is interesting because you don't have an ocean or you don't have a lake that is your, like your cookie cutter, A+ location, right? Like most places it's like, okay, you want to be by the ocean, you want to have the view. But in Arizona, it's really interesting because even though there are gated developments, there are neighborhoods that have almost like these invisible barriers. And like Arcadia, I think is a great example if anyone's familiar with the Arcadia area. So you'll hear people say like Arcadia proper, and then it'll say, Arcadia Light, and then it's like Arcadia Light, yeah. And then as it goes out. And what that really means is that, trying to stay within certain streets, you want to be, typically, north of Indian School or, west of another street or, south of a different street. And what that means, at least in my mind and how I've tried to stick with my investing is this. That's going to be the most expensive property for you to get into, but it's, I believe, the most protected because I look at it almost like a nucleus, right? So it's like, if you stay in the Arcadia proper, that's going to retain its value the longest. And as you go out in that like nucleus, then those are the ones that are going to get hit the hardest and hit first when, there's a downturn. And so kind of staying in those like invisible boundaries. McCormick Ranch is like a great, another area that's in Scottsdale that, you don't have the gates. You wouldn't, there's not really, signs everywhere that you say that you're in McCormick Ranch, but everyone kind of knows these like invisible lines. And the reason why I, emphasize this is that, when you're investing, it's really tempting to go maybe out, 1 degree or 2 degrees. But the problem is that those are going to be, the first, to tank, and then it's going to be the last to come back. Whereas those ones that are in that first nucleus, you can only build, that in that first area, right? And there's no other land to build. And the other thing I do that probably isn't as conventional as other people is I remodel the home within the first 2 years. And I probably do it maybe a little bit, nicer maybe than a lot of like other real estate investors. But I think, though, the reason why I do it is that not just for the appraised value, but I do it because I want to deliver a product to my guests that, beats or exceeds their expectations. I'd rather have a guest come in and, feel like they've underpaid for the product versus coming in and feeling like, they've been taken advantage of, or, it wasn't what, they were wanting, to pay for. I think in this day and age too, when so many people are struggling, just being able to provide something where they feel they walk in and they, appreciate it. They feel like they've, underpaid for it. And then also too, they're going to tend to take care of it better. They're going to tend to, book again, tell their friends, tell their family. But that guest who comes in and feels like they've been, swindled, or they've, it's not worth the value. Not only are they going to not take care of it, but they're also like just going to, give you a bad review. They're just going to be pissed that whole week. There's going to be issues going on that whole week. And then it just also the mindset is too, for me at least, is being able to have the ability to, like, if I want to sell it, after those 2 years, refi or whatnot, that I've already, spent the capital on, switching out the HVACs and, addressing any issues that it has, in addition to all the cosmetic. There's a ton of people who would line up to tell me all of the reasons why you should never buy an oceanfront home, right? I mean, just the insurance and the risk and, you could have a whole podcast on just all of the things that could happen to an oceanfront home.
Right.
Yes, completely true. Very risky, not for the faint of heart. But at the same time, things happen, whether it's in Arizona and a pipe bursts and, that sort of thing. So you kind of have to weigh it out. But when you look at the numbers, though, for the oceanfront home, you have, again, it's kind of like if you look at like the Arcadia proper, right? And the Arcadia Light, it's a very similar mindset. So you can only, purchase a certain amount of homes on that oceanfront. And then there's, ocean view. Then there's ocean side. Then there's, sound view, sound side. And what happens is whether it's a good market or, a downturn in the market, those oceanfront homes are going to be the last ones to go in a downturn because those are the most desirable. So people are going to pay a premium to, stay in those oceanfront homes. And even in a downturn, you have that enough of that spread to then lower your rates and still, make a profit. But the ones though that I've found that really, are even struggling now are the ones that, maybe don't have the ocean view, but are, a couple minute walk to the beach or whatnot, because, as I said, they're far out of that, main nucleus that, they just, they're the last ones to kind of get rented. And those are the ones that I think have the hardest time staying rented. The other thing too is with these oceanfront homes, the larger ones, a lot of times multiple families will go in all together. And what that means is they actually will be booking a year in advance. So like, for instance, like my homes are almost booked for 2025 already because, when you're going in with 3-4 different families, as like everyone's, you're planning that week summer trip that next year. Whereas if you have a product that maybe is, yes, maybe more economical, maybe for that one family, but, they don't need to plan a year in advance. They probably don't know what's going on, a year in advance. And they probably want to have, a little bit of more time to do that. I tell people, I love the first stage where I'm identifying the property. I see the potential in it. I can see the vision. In the middle, when I'm in the remodel and I'm, 2:00 in the morning every morning, and the workers and I are, kind of battling, and we're just, kind of in the trenches, so to speak. I question, how did I get myself into another one? But then when you start to slowly see the pieces come together, it's like, okay, I'm seeing it. And then as it's, continuing to evolve into what your vision was, and then when you see the finished product, I'm just like, okay, I got it. Okay, this is exactly what I'm doing. It's interesting. I've got 2 properties in Outer Banks that are on pilings on the sand, and they're not for everyone. They, if you want to be on the beach, down the stairs on the beach, that's your jam. But at the same time, like the drawback is you're going to have to, rent the 4-wheel drive car to get onto the, the sand driveway. I've had, guests where they've said that the, waves are too loud or there's too much sand under the home and that sort of stuff. Right. But then I have 3 oceanfront homes that are behind a protective dune that you have to walk down a boardwalk, a private boardwalk to get to the beach. But sometimes people, don't want that long of a walk, and so trying to manage people's, expectations of what, the product or the home offers, I think helps their experience. And, and then also just not taking it personally. I can laugh about it, where it's just, some people just are not going to be happy no matter what you give them, know, and that's okay. It's just, and, I've even, offered, as someone's like checking in and you just know, like, this is just not going to be a good fit. Like I will, I don't usually give refunds, but like, clearly we're not, like, you're not going to have a good experience. I'm not going to have a good experience. And then also too, I'm thinking in my head, I don't want the bad review as well, because I know that, and then they're going to be wanting a refund. I can see how this goes, right? Mm-hmm. So then I offer, what, I'm going to offer the opportunity for you guys to just find another place. And so I definitely, in my listing, try to like address everything that, they could potentially, think as a drawback. Like, let's just take those 2 properties on the pilings, for instance,
Right.
I, address that it's, sand driveways, all these, just like literally everything before they even book. And then it starts with my welcome letter after they've booked, to go through like kind of the expectations and my suggestions of what, purchasing travel insurance and like things like that. Unfortunately, that's not going to be, completely foolproof, but I think at least though it kind of weeds out anyone who, maybe isn't really, like signing up for, a sand driveway or things like that. So I think establishing a relationship with them before they even book, because, when you have already established a personal relationship, it's really hard to complain behind, behind computer keys, with the review and stuff when you've already established that relationship with the guest and vice versa with the host. But, I truly am in this because I love giving back to my guests and providing a good experience. A lot of these homes, they've been the place where, their loved one was, experienced their last, beach vacation before they were going to pass. They knew that they were sick for a while and like this was going to be their last time. And then they come back, to either like spread their ashes or have that memorial service.